time to talk about the elephant in the room, guys. It's been nearly 2 weeks since Modern Warfare's come out, and I've wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts on Spec Ops, but I didn't want to go in making a video on day one. I really wanted to take my time with this mode. I wanted to play each operation a few times over, the Spec Ops mission, survival mode, really just take it all in so I can get a really thorough and fair view on Spec Ops mode after putting a lot of time into it. Because as a content creator who focuses solely on the co-op modes in Call of Duty, since there's no zombies mode this year, Spec Ops mode is taking its place in Modern Warfare, and of course I'm going to be intrigued and I want to create content on it because I know there's a lot of people that are going to jump on Spec Ops this year to get their co-op fix. I think it's very clear that straight away since launch, the reception to Spec Ops has been very, very mixed, with a majority having very poor opinions on it. So in this video, I want to have a healthy discussion with you guys on my opinion on Spec Ops. We're going to talk about the good things, we're going to talk about the bad things, and we're going to talk about a lot of things which I think would make this mode better. I can't stress highly how important it is that you drop your opinions and feedback in the comment section below. If you agree with what I'm saying, you disagree, have entirely other points of view on this mode, or how you want it to be improved, because I'm sure the developers at Infinity Ward are going to be watching this video for some feedback. And if some very positive changes happen to the mode because of this video, and I feel that this discussion was a big success. So I need all of you guys to drop your thoughts in the comments, as well as dropping a like rating. The more likes we get on this video, the more Infinity Ward are going to see this. If you haven't played Spec Ops yet because you don't think you have Spec Ops, you do. If you click the co-op section of the main menu and go into public match, you have operations, which are big 4-player huge scale missions, and then you also have classic special ops, which is the missions similar to Modern Warfare 2 and 3, where we only have one at the moment. I'm going to be covering both in this video, but we're going to be starting off firstly by talking about operations, because the main consensus is that these are way too difficult and also very buggy. Now I want to start off by talking about the good parts about Spec Ops. The fact that we have such an expansive Spec Ops experience this year compared to what we've seen in Modern Warfare 2 and 3 is very exciting. At launch currently we have 4 operations which are 4-player only missions which span as far bigger playable map area than any ground war map we have right now, and probably in the future. These are seriously detailed, packed, humongous worlds, all fully detailed, and even have some homages to previous Modern Warfare maps, which I think is awesome. Some of the cinematic set pieces that are built in some of these operations, Crosswind being a big highlight, is the fact that you board a plane Mile High Club style, dashing through it and then blowing up the door to parachute out is incredible. That alone in a single player experience would be exhilarating to see, but having that work in 4-player co-op so flawlessly is a technical masterpiece and is a true evolution of what the Spec Ops mode was. Every player can assign themselves a specific team role. If they use them properly or not is another thing entirely, and the sheer openness of these levels again can't be understated enough how impressive they are. But another thing that can't be understated is just how difficult Spec Ops mode is. I'm a player who absolutely loves a challenge, if it's in a zombies mode or not. So when something's difficult, I'm just going to keep going at it again and again and again until I eventually complete it. For the majority of the audience that plays Modern Warfare and wants to dabble into Spec Ops, if they play one game of that, they are gonna absolutely hate it. And that's because the difficulty is so inconsistent and varies from being pretty easy to being insanely difficult, like to the point where it is almost too frustrating to play over and over if you don't have a coordinated team. Like the enemy AI, the waves are just absolutely endless. They endlessly keep coming and they spot you from a mile away before you can even react. Now, as a gamer who is so used to situations like that in games, I can deal with that stuff. But for a casual player, that's going to frustrate them to the point of just never trying this mode ever again. And it is a real shame, because there is a lot of opportunity here for them to create some amazing operations down the line with DLC. And for the casual audience who have bought Modern Warfare, 1/3 of the game is literally impossible for them to complete and isn't enjoyable, so they just put it down and never try it again. And that's a mentality that I wish no one had, because I can't imagine how much time was spent from all the developers that worked on this mode to get this thing to work as it does. But I feel going forward there just has to be a serious balance patch over all the operations so they aren't so insanely difficult. Like, I don't know if I've played you the clip yet in this video, but there was a moment where I was carrying the nuke from the ending of Operation Crosswind and I got swarmed by enemies, and then my other remaining teammates just could not survive this onslaught of juggernauts and other AI, and then we have 10 AI parachuting onto a rooftop at the exact same time. A simple way for this to be way easier is just to increase the max amount of health a player has without using armor, or have a difficulty level selected before you go in the game, because it feels like you're playing on veteran all the time in these operations. There are moments where you think you're in the clear, and then from nowhere there's just guys spawning 2 feet behind you, shooting you in the back. If I'm being honest, that's not how I think difficulty should be done in this mode, as a system of random unfair spawning all the time, which kills the good vibe that you probably had with your co-op partners in the game prior. Like, completing a Spec Ops operation feels so rewarding because of how difficult it is, but another thing which needs some looking at is that there are no proper rewards for completing a operation. Yes, you do gain XP from killing soldiers, but you only gain 10 XP per kill. In most average operation completion runs, you may kill around about 70 to 100 enemies, which is about the same amount of XP you'd get for a standard game of team deathmatch. Now, I understand that people may go into Spec Ops to abuse a higher XP system to level up, but with no incentives to play them apart from unlocking one operator skin, the replay value of these operations, considering how difficult they are, gets thrown in the balance. Now, when I got my chance to play Spec Ops a little bit before launch, the first thing that me and Codename Pizza noticed was you cannot play these operations on your own. You have to be in a 4-player lobby, and if you don't have enough players, you have to play it with random people in public games. Last time we saw anything like that was the tortured path for World War II zombies to complete the Easter egg on those set of maps, and I'm personally not a fan. I could never imagine completing one of these on your own if the difficulty wasn't scaled, but there are players out there that love a challenge and love solo play. So I don't know if it would ever be possible, but a solo version of these operations would go down a treat. I do understand that this is primarily built as a 4-player co-op experience to encourage teamwork, but I think the option for solo play should definitely be there, as well as being able to play these in private matches. I feel this might be something which is coming already, so if that's the case, then that's absolutely awesome. But overall, yeah, a definite drive for more replayability, such as maybe adding in daily or weekly challenges, having specific rewards available only in Spec Ops. I'll definitely get a lot more people interested if there is like some secret rare legendary blueprints that you could gain only from completing a certain operation. But I think the overall biggest complaint about Spec Ops in general is that it just does not feel like Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3 Spec Ops. Those were single player or 2-player missions, very similar to campaign missions, but completing them in certain amounts of times would grant you a 1, 2, or 3-star rank. And the addictive replay value from all of those missions came from trying to achieve the fastest time and the highest rank. That is non-existent in the operations mode, and in classic Special Ops, you only have access to one mission right now, which is Safeguard, which is a rip from a campaign mission, where you have to survive a certain amount of waves of enemies before leaving in an exfil helicopter. Now, this is definitely more my thing. I love the big bombastic operations, but if I just want to jump in and really go at something to get the best time and rank, this is going to be what I'm going to do, as this is for solo or cooperative play. So you already have the box tick there to satisfy the solo players like myself. Now, these missions are supposed to test your proficiency with specific weapons, kill streaks, and other tools, and are designed to be extremely replayable. But what we have right now is far from the description. I understand that as a live service game, they're going to introduce more operations and more Spec Ops missions throughout the year, which is very, very cool. But I feel for those that love the original Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 Spec Ops, this should have as much love and attention as the operations. This doesn't feel like the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3 missions, as this feels completely different to that. You are competing for a time as well as a star ranking, but it doesn't feel like the bombastic cinematic campaign co-op missions you remember from the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3. With this current one, Safeguard, all you get is a time played. You don't get any star rankings, there's no leaderboards for it, and the reward that you get for completing this doesn't even unlock until sometime in November. I have no idea what this reward is going to be, but the fact that you don't even get the reward Ward until sometime later is just very, very weird to me. Obviously, I'm sure Infinity Ward have a plan when it comes to this, future DLC missions, which I hope we get really, really soon. But I just feel when it comes to the launch of the game, for a mode like this, you want to start off strong. You want to have the best content out there, the best operations, and the best missions possible. And you only have one mission, which doesn't feel at all like the originals when it comes to like bombastic co-op action involving cinematic campaign style sequences. When you compare it to Modern Warfare 2 Spec Ops that had 23 Spec Ops missions on launch, Modern Warfare 3 which started with 16 missions at launch, with a further 8 in DLC packs, it's easy to see why a lot of Spec Ops fans are disappointed at the moment with the missions part of Modern Warfare, because we're used to getting a lot of missions straight off the bat and only having one, and all the mission is a condensed version of survival mode. It is a little bit disappointing. It's clear to see that a trade-off was made to have far fewer missions than to have big bombastic operations, which are essentially huge full-scale missions, and which I've said before are incredibly impressive from the technical stand front, but are lacking in any real exciting objectives to complete. Like, I love the way that the second and third acts of the Operation Crosswind go. That is exactly how I want all of the Modern Warfare missions to go. But a lot of the current objectives in these operations seem quite uninspiring, I guess is the term for them. All it is going to an area, defending it, going to another area, defending it. I'd love to see some more creativity. And no doubt I'm sure we will see it, but a huge thing that I would love to see in these operations is having an entirely night vision, clean house mission style operation involving stealth, involving players having to slowly make their way through houses, carefully searching and taking down targets in rooms, just like we did with Captain Price in the campaign. I absolutely love that mission, and having something like that in a 4-player cooperative experience could honestly make it one of the best missions we have ever seen in a Call of Duty game. If I had to look at the other operations we currently have, I would say that Operation Headhunter isn't exactly a boring one. There's a good amount of variety and a break in between the 5 scramblers to take out tanks and whatnot, but in the same breath, that operation is absolutely impossible unless you have someone on the stadium roof. Like, it feels kind of bad that you have to sort of cheese your way through some of the operations just to complete them from the sheer difficulty. But I'm staying optimistic that as we get more and more updates to this game mode with more missions, more operations, this is going to be a biblical Spec Ops mode with a scale that I doubt could be matched. I guess the overall expression to describe Spec Ops right now is that it's a little disappointing. From the 4 operations available on the game right now, what I've played is fun. With a coordinated team, there's a great few hours of fun gameplay to be had here. That's if everyone that you're playing with is used to hard stuff like this, because in its current state, it's pretty impossible to have an enjoyable experience, especially if you're playing with randoms, because the spawn rate on the enemies is absolutely outrageous. I've not even gone over some of the bugs and glitches that exist currently in the mode, which I'm sure are getting ironed over as we speak, but some of the most crucial mechanics in the game break quite often, which is really frustrating in trying to complete a run. I'm being specific here, I'm talking about when you respawn and your munition boxes just can't be used. Like, you'll respawn in and your button to activate the different munitions or kill streaks just don't work. It's just like it's locked. Some instances you'll respawn and you won't even have a weapon. There's also been a very unique moment where I've been right at the end of Operation Headhunter, the stadium one. You guys know how frustrating that one is, especially with how difficult it is. And the game I was in, it literally just crashed. The connection to the host quit. I realized that was probably the host of the game leaving, but nevertheless, if this is on dedicated servers, there shouldn't be a host in the game anyway. If someone quits out, someone searching in the public match playlist will get pulled into the game, so there'll always be 4 players, which is great, but none of the players should be a host, because if they quit, the game ends for everyone, and it's super frustrating. Another thing I think would be a great improvement as well is that although it is awesome to land away from the objective on what you're supposed to be doing to go ahead and explore, you still get insta-killed by all the AI soldiers, which will spawn out of nowhere surrounding you whilst you're doing that exploring and making your way back to the actual mission objective. Some people might just accidentally not reach the area and have to run back, and they shouldn't be penalized for it. There's also a ton of places which you can accidentally land in your parachute, which are completely out of bounds areas, and you fall right through the map forever. A fix I reckon could be put in place here where you just have an out of bounds warning message, meaning you can't land in these sections, and it will either just put you back in the plane to respawn again, or you're just gonna have to wait another minute. Now, another thing I've seen a lot of people complaining about, and I agree to a certain extent, is that the checkpoint system, which means if you get to a certain part of the mission and you will die out, instead of starting right at the beginning, you'll start back at a checkpoint, I feel is really inconsistent. On some missions, it works as it should. On others, it just puts you straight back to the start again. Like on this mission, if you fail here, you start back at the APC escort, which is great. But look at this clip. I wasn't dead. Why did we fail the mission? I'd love an explanation, but when it comes to other operations like Crosswind, the plane, once you've jumped out the plane, if you die at that part, you will respawn right at the beginning again. Like, what? So I think some clear defined areas where you have a checkpoint, maybe even having something on screen visually that shows when someone's entering the next checkpoint so that you know exactly at what stage you're going to respawn at. And when everyone dies out and the mission fails and you get the option if you want to vote to continue again, it should be made more clear where exactly in the mission you'll be respawned at, as well as showing the player names on who's voted yes and who's voted no. Perhaps even showing a percentage of how far in the operation you were, just to encourage people to stop voting no, because on public match everyone votes no, and it makes reattempts of Operation Headhunter the most frustrating thing in the world, having to restart again right at the beginning. Like I said at the beginning, I don't want to seem like I'm bashing this mode, because I'm definitely not, but there needs to be some improvement here, because across the board it's frustrating to me seeing so many people not give it a chance because of just how absurdly difficult it is. And then we've got Modern Warfare Survival Mode, which only exists on PlayStation, and I don't really need to say much about this mode. I thought I'd play it a lot more since I'm a zombies fan, and I really enjoyed Modern Warfare 3 Survival, but it doesn't even feel like it's on the same level as Modern Warfare 3 Survival. It just doesn't feel like it's quite finished. I definitely want to give it more attempts, but I feel like the maps they're on just definitely don't suit the mode whatsoever, especially the bigger ones. Piccadilly seems to be the only one that makes sense to be a survival map. But the whole point of this video really was to get your opinions on Spec Ops and how you feel about it down below in the comment section, because I'm sure a video like this, especially with my community, as I'm sure this much feedback in one central place is going to be really useful for the developers in improving the Spec Ops mode and in terms of the content and quality of the future operations to come. I think would also be really, really nice is if there was certain characters from the campaign that we could play as in Spec Ops mode rather than it just be our operators, because their voices are annoying enough in multiplayer with the random battle chatter, but in Spec Ops it's even more random and nonsensical and doesn't really make sense with what's going on. Some of the love for the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3 Spec Ops was the fact that you played as some of the classic characters like Ghost and with Price, and they really felt like an extension of the campaign rather than it being a separate thing. And whilst this is continuing the campaign, which I'm really grateful for, it just doesn't really feel like it is part of the campaign story. And as a content creator who focuses on the co-op modes in Call of Duty games, I really want this co-op mode to end up being a real diamond in the rough, because if the attitude towards it now stays the same throughout all of the year, it really puts a downer on wanting to actually try and give the mode a go, because everyone's just aimlessly hating on it. I definitely think with a massive balancing overhaul, as well as improving the bugs and the quality of the operation missions themselves, this could really be a great mode. But at the moment, this mode still holds a lot of potential, but there is a lot of obstacles stopping it from being a great mode that I would play day in and day out for the incentives, the rewards, and just the gameplay loop being fun enough for me to want to play it all the time. But at the moment, it's just not there. But let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you made it all the way through to the end, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, the fact that I even made it to discuss my thoughts on Spec Ops, feel free to support it, because the more likes we get, the more chance Infinity Ward are going to see this video. When it comes to new Spec Ops content, I'll be covering it here on the channel regardless of what happens to this mode in the future. And as a whole, I do enjoy the mode, but I have to be playing it with people that also want to play it. And when it comes to my friends that all love playing zombies and stuff, they'll play zombies, but they won't want to play this. And I'd love that to change in the future with some changes to the mode. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.